Hello consumers, this is Altari the Professional Gamer here for episode 3 of the PAX Friday review. In this show we go over all of the new information that's been given to us over the last week for PAX Day. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so that you can get notified for all future videos that we do pertaining to PAX Day. This week, we got a lot of interesting new information with regards to lore, and I believe also potentially a new dungeon that is going to be in PAX Day. So really quickly, I just wanted to go over all of it. I know our last two videos, which you totally should check out, it's going to be in the playlist down below, were exquisitely long. They were like 30 minutes long, but there was a lot to cover. We had screenshots to go over, and then what I believe is the first example of a enemy NPC other than animals in PAX Day. So this is a really big jump that we've made over the last 2 weeks, and I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot more next week. So you definitely want to stick around for that and be on the lookout for the next PAX Friday review. But this week, we got Armazel's Folly. And this is what the screenshot is right here. And you can see there's just a bunch of horses kind of marching forward or running in a specific direction. There's some kind of tall peak-like thing. I can't tell if this is... It might be a castle or a tower or something like that. Definitely some, cases of horses that have been drawn out. An interesting thing that I noticed as well was this kind of weird, almost like someone went in with Photoshop and erased something that was there, as if to kind of hide it with a brush stroke. And I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just the artist, but something just to cleverly take note of. If these are supposed to be actual like manuscript style artwork, something that's found in a book that's in lore, then back in the medieval ages, like monks would, as they're transcribing, sometimes go and etch out intricate pictures that were of the devil or demons or something like that. They'd pick out the eyes. And there's a picture of something like that over here. But I don't know if that's the case here or not. I'm probably looking far too into it to be on to something there. But hey, a guy can dream. So that's concept art that we've been given for this week. And then we had a decently sized lore snippet. And at the end of this lore snippet, there's potentially what is one of the first dungeons that has been announced for PAX Day. So definitely stick around to hear what I think about this. So here's the first little bit, and we'll just read through the entire thing. If you don't want to listen to me read, you can actually click on the timestamp down below and just skip all the way to the very end where I talk about my analysis a little bit. So, Arzamel was revealed as the 5th Redeemer during the Great Incursion of the Dark Lord in the 12th century after creation. The 7th son of a Gothian carpenter, he taught mankind to imbue Earth's metals with divine spirit, shaping them into tools, weapons, and armor. Armazel was the first Redeemer born under the sun, rather than having descended from heaven. 4 decades after Phaonios' ascension, Armazel was growing restless. His craft and skill had given him everything he could wish for, so the deceiver laid out a trap for him and showed him he had yet more to gain. In the guise of the angel Chamuel, he visited Armazel in a dream and led him under the great mountain Medulla. Beyond the holy seals laid down by the 4th Redeemer, and showed him endless halls and chambers where cold metal lined the walls, while glistening stones shone the way. Without seeking guidance from the Allfather, once again, Armazel raised the Sons of the Light, the great host of paladins who had fought with him and Phaonios during the great purge of evil. His desire for the riches kept by the dungeons beneath the mountain, and the pride welling up inside him at the sight of thousands of his holy knights standing before him, caused him to disregard God's peace, and the seals were shattered. For 1 day and 1 night the sons of light rode through the gates of Medulla, descending into the mountain, singing praises to the Lord and shouting taunts at the dark forces that surely awaited them within. Armazel, who was riding mid-column, entered the mountain at sunset. Neither he nor a single one of his shining paladins was ever seen again. Echoes of Chimeron 1:22. Alright, so we see this entire picture of Armazel's folly. Now, a folly is typically something that you do wrong, you mess up, it's a mistake. We all make follies, but Armazel seems to have made a very critical screw up. And essentially what happened is we have a lot of information here. So this first little snippet that we got is describing to us Armazel. The importance of Armazel is that he's the first Redeemer that actually was born on the world. He didn't descend from heaven. So he has kind of a different makeup of a Redeemer than the previous ones before him, the first 4. And with that being said, every Redeemer, as we know, is a person who gifts humanity, gifts mankind some kind of, knowledge or the ability to do something. And in his case, what he taught mankind to do was to imbue Earth's metals with divine spirit, shaping them into tools, weapons, and armor. Now, from a gameplay implication, this is kind of interesting because this is one of the first times that we've heard something in lore about imbuing, or what other games would call maybe enchanting, a weapon or armor or your tools with divine spirit. Now, we know that there's a lot of different kinds of magic that exist in the Pax Dei lore. One of them is divine spirit. Divine spirit is one of the ways that magic has come about. And it's safe to assume, at least in this lore, that Armazel is someone who has gifted humanity the knowledge to be able to imbue their tools and equipment with some sort of divine spirit or some sort of magic. Call that enchanting or just magic. It is something very interesting there. And I don't know if there's going to be any kind of gameplay implications for that, but nevertheless, Armazel sounds like a pretty cool guy. Now, that is about as far as he goes in terms of his coolness, because now we move on to the Great Temptation. He is someone who is a crafter, right? He, by trade, his father was a carpenter. He's the 7th son of a carpenter, and he has been gifted by the divine the ability to craft and forge and create new things and imbue them potentially with magical power. And he's been able to teach all of mankind how to do this and how to partake in that trade. So with that knowledge, it's safe to assume that he is also quite an affluent individual, and he doesn't have much left to gain. So that's where the Deceiver, or the Dark Lord, or the evil forces etched their way into Armazel. Now, an interesting thing to note again here is Armazel's the first Redeemer who was born of the world, as opposed to descending from heaven. I wonder if those who descended from heaven before him were actually corruptible beings, or if he's kind of the first Redeemer that actually has been able to fall away from the divine. Now, in this particular circumstance, he was tempted by, from what he thought was an angel named Chamuel, Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And essentially he was being called to go to Mount Medulla and collect the resources, the vast amount of minerals, the glistening stones, and collect all of those from within the mountain. Essentially, he was being called to go into what I would assume to be more like the Mines of Moria, but he's perceiving them to kind of be more like, I don't know, the Emerald City or something like that.
A mine!
So he's been tempted to go, and it is apparent that there is evil in that place. He knows that there's evil in that place. So he brings the Sons of Light, which is a group of paladins who fought with him and I believe another Redeemer. I'm pretty sure Phaonios is another Redeemer, possibly the first. I'd have to go back and check. But regardless, these Sons of Light are very pious knights, essentially, who accompany the Redeemer on their conquest to rid the world of evil. So he gathers all of these guys up and says, we're going to go and take the mountain. And this is where I believe we get the first ever confirmation of an actual name of a dungeon and what we might also be able to expect inside of that dungeon in Pax Dei. So his desire for the riches kept by the dungeons beneath the mountain and the pride welling up inside him at the sight of thousands of his holy knights standing before him caused him to disregard God's peace, and the seals were shattered. So Mount Medulla is a place that at least is said to have untold riches. But it is also wrought with evil beings, potentially, and he brings an entire army of holy paladins with him to go and purge this mountain, but more so to satiate his greed and to reap the rewards of what lays beneath the mountain. I think this is a very interesting and cool lore hint that points towards a potential place that we as players in Pax Dei will be able to venture into at some point. Now, at the very end, we get kind of another little lore snippet. And after I talk about it, I am also going to kind of use my headcanon a bit and think forward as to what we might even see in Pax Dei as well. And that specifically is neither he nor a single one of his shining paladins was ever seen again. That means there's no dead body. And when there's no dead body, and we're talking about dungeons, and we're talking about the fifth Redeemer, in my mind, what would be really cool for Mainframe to do here is if we venture into Medulla, Mount Medulla, and we descend into the caverns or the dungeon that lies beneath it, there needs to be a boss, an end boss of this dungeon, and it would be really, really cool if it was Armazel or a corrupted version of Armazel. And all of the other mobs that exist in this dungeon now are a mixture of the original evil that was located and resided in that place that the Sons of Light and Armazel went to go and conquer, as well as the fallen Sons of Light and Armazel now also possessing that space. So I think that this little lore snippet, while it didn't reveal altogether too much gameplay, there's really two main takeaways that I want all of you to have from this week's PAX Friday review. One is that it seems as though we can shape tools, weapons, and armor with some kind of magic. So I wouldn't say it's confirmed enchantment is in the game, but from the looks of it, it seems as though there is some way that humanity has been able to use earth metals and the divine spirit that they've been granted, as we know from the lore previously on Magic, that they can imbue these weapons, imbue this armor and their tools with maybe special qualities or important enchantments. I don't really know, but it's a really interesting tease at potentially what Mainframe can reveal at a later time. And then also the other takeaway is that I would be incredibly surprised at this point now if Mount Medulla is not a dungeon that we can descend into in the future. And you can slap me in the face if there is not an Armazel, the fallen redeemer, at the very end of this dungeon. I can't guarantee it, but I can feel it in my essence that this is a lore snippet that is revealing to us a dungeon that we'll find in game. Now, what's really cool is if this is a teaser of the type of lore connected to gameplay elements that we will see in Pax Dei, that this is going to be awesome, because you'll be adventuring around and maybe you find a manuscript or a book or, I don't know, a cave drawing or something like that, and it'll show, hey, this is Armazel. It might be this story, and it's written in actual like text in the game. And you can find these things, and it uncovers different locations and what you might expect to find there. And it gives the player information that they can then use to start going on these adventures with their friends or their clanmates. So while we didn't get altogether that much in terms of actual gameplay or more information on how the game is going to work, I think it's really cool that Mainframe is giving us information, and when we look at it, we can actually see how this kind of does fit into a gameplay mechanic in the game. This could very easily be a part of the knowledge system that exists in Pax Dei. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments down below. Do you think enchantments are in the game? Do you think this is confirming it? Do you think that Mount Medulla is going to be a dungeon? What other types of dungeons do you think you'd like to see? But other than that, that's all we have for this week. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. It definitely helps us. If you have any friends that are interested in Pax Dei, be sure to share this video to them. And stick around. We'll be here next week for more information on Pax Dei. Other than that, I'm Ep.3, the professional gamer. Have a great rest of your day.